I have always had a morbid sense of curiosity when it comes to viewing things that we should not witness or content that should not even be out there, but they are. You know the gruesome videos people would send each other of people being killed, horrific accidents, animal torture, etc., where most people would look away in disgust. I couldn't help myself but divulge, finding myself intrigued. I know I'm not proud of it, it may sound messed up admitting it, but even I have a limit. With always being tech savvy and good with computers, it was this addictive curiosity and my skills that led me to the deep web. I had obviously known and heard of this as many of you have, but never quite took that next step to explore it myself, until my urge to see some messed up shit became too much, and I decided to take the time to research and download the necessary software I needed to delve into its dark chambers of content. So that's what I did. Bored with the same routine of studying, work and gaming, I decided to look for a new thrill, and from what I said earlier about being intrigued by the twisted shit, well, it's sometimes not best to let the curiosity take over. After I'd installed my chosen software to encrypt my data with Tor and a VPN to reroute my actual location, making myself as safe as I thought I could, I was finally in and exploring the so-called deep web. It was strange to me at first, as I found myself browsing through numerous onion links. After exploring, I'd seen some strange things ranging from some messed up porn and some illegal content, which included the selling of people's stolen pets. It wasn't until I entered a chat room that things became all too real. I found myself in a live chat room. There weren't many participants online, but a message popped up not long after I'd been in the chat from a random username initiating a conversation with me. They had said hello. I replied with the same hello, to which I got a message back asking what I was looking for. I was hovering over my keys thinking what to say, when I just thought, what the hell, I know why I'm here, let's just be honest. So I told him what I was looking for and asked if he had any interesting links. It wasn't long before I got a reply that read, LOL, well if you're really sure about that, I have a link that'll be sure to blow your mind. And if you don't mind me saying, you can check out a live stream. I highly recommend it. And with that, this person sent me a link. I hovered over it for a second before clicking it, to which I was brought to a new black page that contained multiple faded links, encrypted but still readable. I went back to thank them, but whoever sent me the link, they were already gone. So, continuing my journey down the rabbit hole further into the depths of the dark web is where I headed. Studying the links to choose, one stood out to me over the others, and as I clicked it, I was taken to another page, where a pop-up box displayed itself. Only enter if you are ready for what's to come. Then, 2 options, continue or return. For some reason, I didn't hesitate, and clicked continue, not really understanding what I was getting myself into, or what I was about to witness. Another page loaded a blank screen, where after a second, a digital coin started to fall down the page. It landed spinning, before a large text popped up above it, displaying heads or tails. A TNC box popped up and then a fee to continue. I'm not proud of it, and God I wish I made a different decision now, but being in the moment and so far, I entered in the fee and continued. It was soon a link popped up on my screen. As I studied it, I could see it was a dull basement type room, metal chains hanged from the ceiling and a chair sat empty in the middle underneath. As I looked closer, it was then I could see a timer in the top left corner, counting down. At the bottom of the video, text started popping up with usernames. It was a live chat, and I seemed to have stumbled myself into a live stream of some sorts. Interested now, I joined in with the conversation and said hello, like I saw a few others do. One replied, "A newcomer, welcome." And at that moment, a topless figure appeared on screen, wearing an old, battered gas mask. He simply stared at the screen, as his chest rose up and down, breathing heavily. The countdown finished, and the admin wrote into the chat welcoming everyone back and pleased to see some new faces to the show. Without wasting more time, the man in the gas mask waved his hand, summoning someone to the room. From the back of the room, another person in a gas mask walked in, wheeling something in the room, covered by what looked like a ragged dust sheet. Placing whatever it was in the middle of the room, the figure left, leaving the topless man standing next to the sheet, as he stared at the camera, counting down from 5 with his fingers before ripping the sheet off. and what I saw caught me off guard. I don't know what I was expecting, and I should have known, but what sat on the screen in front of me was a naked man, tied up with his head down, clearly drugged or unconscious. It was then the man stepped aside as he fiddled with a coin in his hand. In the chat, a choice popped up: heads or tails. Heads, wake up with burning earlobes, or tails, wake up with burning nose. The question was aimed at a certain user who instantly clicked that option without hesitating. As the option was submitted, the man in the gas mask pulled from the table next to him a handheld blowtorch. The orange glow flashed, lighting up the screen before coming back into focus. And I knew what was coming next. And to my shock, the man placed his hand on top of the person's head and held the blowtorch inches from his ear. Within seconds, the man in the chair had come around and was startled to the pain from the heat thrashing his head around. I couldn't believe what I was watching. The man in the mask had clearly burnt the unwilling participant's ear off. I could feel my temperature beginning to rise from the anxiety and shock at what I was watching. The man threw the blowtorch to the side as he again stared at the camera. Another question directed at a viewer popped across the screen: heads or tails? Heads hang from eye sockets, or tails hang from ankles. The chat box blew up. Heads, heads, tails, heads, all these viewers demanding what they wanted to see. I couldn't believe it, and before I knew it, the viewer had submitted. The screen flashed. Heads. And to my horror, what came next made me sick. The masked man grabbed the 2 chains situated above the poor victim in the chair as he lowered them to eye level. You could see the fear in the man's eyes as he hopelessly thrashed to get free. Holding his head in place, the masked man waved the hook towards the camera before piercing it through the man's eye socket just above the eyeball, where you can feel the hollowed, bony area of your eye socket. The man's screams were haunting as he writhed in agony, blood trickling down his face as the masked man repeated his horrifying actions with the other eye socket. Both eye sockets pierced with hooks. The man in the mask stood back, staring at the camera as he held out his arm, his thumb pointing down as he slowly turned it around to a thumbs up. He pressed a button in his hand. The sounds from what happened next will always haunt me. The chains above suddenly began to retract as the man began to rise from the chair as the hooks pulled him up by his eye sockets. The screams were haunting, the sound of pure agony blaring through the speaker. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. I know I said I watched fucked up stuff, but nothing like what I was seeing now. Something live, with someone so helpless. This was too much. The man now dangling mid-air by his eye sockets, shaking in pain. As I stared at my screen, frozen in shock, having seen enough, it was too late. I hadn't even realized the next question had been broadcast. Heads or tails? Heads, bat to the knees. Tails, scissors to the Achilles. Then, as I saw no answer pop up, I realized the question was aimed at me. My username had been highlighted, just like the others chosen before me. My pulse began to race. I could feel the sweat dripping down my forehead. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't choose such a savage act, or wouldn't be part of this torture. As the comments poured in, tails, slash that arsehole's ankles. This was a game to these sick people. Instead of submitting an option, my fingers shaking, I typed pass. I can't choose. Silence followed, as the man in the mask stared right at the screen, just breathing. It felt like he was staring right at me. The comments turned their attention to me. This pussy's in the wrong place. Choose now, you fucking coward. The adrenaline surging through my body, I typed again. I won't choose and be a part of these despicable actions. You're all sick. The viewers laughed at me, and as I was about to exit, my mouse froze. I couldn't move to exit the screen. Nothing worked. The man in the mask stared at the screen as another question popped up. A question that drained the color from my skin and hit me like I'd had the air squeezed from my lungs. Heads or tails? And the question read, my full name, followed by, will be part of our next show. Heads, yes. Tails, no. The comments poured in, yes after yes, and you're up next. The man in the mask came right up to the screen, as all I could hear was his haunting breathing, followed by a deep, masked voice.
We'll see you soon, Christian.
My heart racing. At that moment, I ripped the wires out of the back of my computer, disconnecting it instantly. The screen went black. I sat there, in the dark silence, shell-shocked, thinking about what had just happened, what I had just saw, and what I had gotten myself into. How did they know my name? I thought I was protected and anonymous. I didn't know if it was empty scare tactics, or they really meant what they said. What I do know is they were not the type of people to mess with. I couldn't sleep after that. My eyes opened to the dark world that lies out there, beyond the little bubble of reality we live in. It's very much real. It is fucking terrifying. A week passed since that night, and all I could think of was what had happened. I felt on edge. Everyone who looked at me, I felt was watching me. But after many sleepless nights, and as time went on, I started to believe that it was just a threat. And what that masked man said was to scare me away. And it worked. Well, that was until the other night, when there was a loud knock on my door. I went to check who it was, but there was no one there. Only an envelope on the floor posted through my letterbox. As I opened it, I felt physically sick. What lay in my hand was a single coin, followed by a note that read, "Heads or tails, see you soon." I'm currently living out of town at a friend's house, too scared to return home. I don't know what to do, or if my life will ever go back to normal. My ventures on the dark web have led me to live in fear, and if anyone listens to this and learns anything from my situation, please don't go searching on the deep web. It's not a place to mess around. Don't let curiosity take over like I did. It was the worst decision I ever made, and I regret it every day. Having a fascination and obsession with the dark web has scarred me for life. Not truly knowing what I was getting myself into, and what horrors have happened since I stupidly delved into the world that is the dark web. Let's just say, I will never be the same from my trip down the rabbit hole. But somehow, I'm still the lucky one. A friend and I had always had a thirst for gore and the twisted videos you could find. Where most people would look away in disgust, we watched, intrigued by it. In this video, I won't be using any real names as to be safe when telling this. We were always online and lived on the same street. Most of the time we were at mine, as I often had the place to myself, with family working out of town. And with that, we pretty much got up to anything we wanted. We weren't the partying type. We would go out, sure, yeah. But most of our time we were hanging out and online searching for things to entertain us. It was one evening that changed mine and Dan's relationship slightly. We had been on the dark web before, but only really scratched the surface level, not fully committing to exploring its vast chambers of macabre and illegal content. But when Dan suggested it to me, having heard of live streams we could sign up for and view, we were instantly reeled in by the idea of viewing such content. With the place to ourselves and the knowledge of knowing no one would be disturbing us anytime soon, we settled in for the night and set up our station to once again explore the dark web, hoping to bypass the boring drugs and arms dealing sites and messed up porn sites and find stuff we were actually interested in and fascinated by. It may sound sick, I know, but we wanted to see what fucked up stuff we could actually find. And with our evening, hours in and us peeling back the onion links, we ended up coming across a site specialized in live streams of home invasions and supposed snuff films. And it was on this hub of links that one grabbed both of our attentions instantly. The title of the site was The Hunt, which was more than enough to grab hold of our attention. We clicked on the link and was brought to the homepage, which was full of filmed videos, which in short, sent a masked figure round to people's houses, apartments, you name it. People who had few connections, chasing them around their own homes. And then, if they had not escaped within the time limit displayed on the video, they would then be shot, cut up. And for instance, one sick video, we witnessed their chopped up body parts left to rot in a bathtub. But these videos were all filmed, not live. As much as it shocked Dan, to me, it wasn't real. I didn't believe what we were watching, more so good video editing and effects. That's when Dan challenged me and said we should try a live stream, as there was one due to start later that night. All we had to do was buy our way in, and in the moment to be proven wrong, I agreed with him. So that's what we did. We paid the price and joined the live stream countdown. As we waited and the stream finally began, it started at night, with the camera focusing on someone's run-down backyard. As the person got closer to the house, they began checking the back windows and found a broken sliding window they were able to push up for easy access. As they entered the property, they began wandering around the house from room to room. As they neared one room, the sound of a TV blaring could be heard. The person slowly stood in the doorway, peering into the room where a man sat, alone, watching the TV. The figure behind him just stood there, watching him for a good minute, as if studying his prey. The livestream comments began pouring in with, "Sneak up behind him, shoot him, suffocate him." Spectators arguing on what the intruder should do. The intruder then held up to the camera a big hunting knife. As Dan and I watched, the intruder slowly approached the man in the chair, unknowing that he was being stalked. It was then the intruder made himself known. The man turned his head to his complete surprise and shock, jumping up instantly, screaming and asking who the fuck was he. It was then he saw the hunting knife, that you could see the fear in his eyes as he backed up, running for the door. The figure chased him, tripping by the hallway stairs. The man screaming as the intruder lay down on top of him, pinning him down. The intruder proceeded to plunge the knife through the man's forehead as the screaming stopped instantly. Silence fell as the comments rolled in. "That was awesome. Useless waste. Did you see the fear in his eyes?" Sick, twisted comments, one after another. Dan looked at me as he said, "What the fuck?" in amazement. He couldn't believe what he had just seen, and to his annoyance, I still didn't believe it was real. As we sat there, arguing, I decided to have some fun and typed into the chat myself, "Fake as fuck," followed by "cheap effect." I was adamant that it was all fake. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looked real, the live streams that we were seeing, but to me I just couldn't buy that it was all real. More so great effects and good camera work. Dan, on the other hand, couldn't take his eyes off it, convinced it was real, that there was no faking what we had seen. As comments followed mine, they had turned their attention to us. "Fake, you fucking idiot. That knife deserves to be for you." As I read them, it was then the camera moved to face the person holding it. To our shock, it was to the view of a white, faceless mask, just two darkened eye holes, as a distorted voice spoke.
Fake, is it?
Followed by a creepy laugh as they proceeded to say my username, followed by, "Well, maybe we'll show you how real it is." After that, the stream cut off. I slightly chuckled a nervous laugh. I didn't realize my comments would be highlighted. Dan looked at me in shock. After that, we called it a night. But for the following weeks, I saw less and less of Dan, as all he ever wanted to do when he came round was dive back onto the dark web. With me not wanting to, he ended up staying at his and watching through stream after stream. He had become addicted by what he thought was real. One evening I tried to call and text him to see if he wanted to come round, but there was no answer. I logged into my laptop to see if he was online. It said he was. I tried calling again, but still no answer. I gathered he was ignoring my calls and clearly too busy, probably on that site. So, with boredom kicking in after a few hours, I shut the laptop down and headed to bed. My sleep that night didn't last long, as I was awoken to an almighty bang. The sound of smashing glass sent my pulse into a frenzy. I was fully awake now, my heart racing. My laptop was open on my desk as the screen lit up my room. It was off when I went to bed, as the last thing I did before going to sleep was shut it down. Now, it was on, and not only was it on, but it had a live feed playing on it. And as I took a closer look, I'd never felt fear like it. The live feed was a camera moving around my room, not just any room, but my kitchen, downstairs where I had just heard the smashing glass. The name above the stream hit me like a bulldozer. It was titled, "The Hunt Live Stream." I felt physically sick. I could feel my heart pounding as I began to shake. Someone was in my house, and if it was indeed what I could see it was, I knew I had to act fast. And after thinking it was all fake, being in the situation myself, it now felt so real, and I knew my life was at risk. The stream slowly moved around my house, as it moved from the kitchen to the front room. I knew my dad kept a loaded gun in his room, so wasting no time and trying to remain silent, I picked up my laptop and made my way to his room, all the while keeping my eyes on the laptop and where the intruder was. As I located the loaded revolver, the adrenaline surged through me as I heard the creak of a floorboard. Looking down at the screen, they were getting closer to the stairs. If I didn't act now, they would soon be up here with me and find me. Heart racing, realizing I had no time and it was now or never, as the stream faced the bottom of my staircase looking up. I gripped the gun and ran towards the stairs as I shouted for them to stay back. As I looked at the bottom of the stairs, fear crippled me. As a masked, hooded figure stared back up at me, they waved their arms, and I could see the shine of the knife they held in their hand, knowing it was meant for me. I pointed the gun down the stairs. The figure made a muffled sound, which terrified me, and at that point I didn't hesitate, as I unloaded 2 rounds into the intruder's chest, watching as they fell back, crumbling to the floor in a heap. I stood there, staring down the stairs, too afraid to move, wondering if he was alone. The house was silent, and as I watched the figure, it never moved. I slowly made my way down the stairs, gripping the revolver tighter as I neared the intruder. I reached the bottom of the stairs. Looking around, there was no one else in sight. I looked back down at the figure, and as I did, I could feel my heart in my throat. The faceless mask stared back at me as I slowly built up the courage to remove it. But as I did, I fell back in complete disbelief. The lifeless eyes of Dan stared back at me. His mouth was taped up. I couldn't process what I was seeing as tears rolled down my face. I then saw it. A card taped to the left side of his chest, and as I reached out, peeling it off his hoodie, I turned it over to the haunting words, "Is this real enough for you?" I was a shaking mess as I threw up. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I could do was call the police and tell them everything. I had gone looking for thrills and depraved things on the dark web. I'd come across what I thought was just fake stage snuff streams. Yeah, I was so wrong, and found myself a part of what they called the hunt. This case is still ongoing. The real perpetrators behind these horrific crimes are still out there and probably will never be identified. I will always have to live with the horrific experience now, and the guilt that plagues me every day. I should have believed my friend and never called these people out on their streams. They made me kill my best friend in what I thought was a home invasion, but yet they made us a part of their sick online game for viewers' pleasure. They broke into his house when he was alone, kidnapped him, and used him as bait for me. As of now, I don't know what's going to happen to me. But if you learn anything from my experience, please, don't go messing with things on the dark web. And if you do, don't make my mistakes. We hope you enjoyed delving into these creepy encounters with us. What situation would have terrified you the most if you were in that position? Let us know in the comments. As always, please like, comment and share, as it really helps the video and the channel out. And if you haven't already, subscribe and join the world of horror motives for more chilling horror content, and drop some suggestions of topics you would like to hear in the future. Thanks for listening. Until next time, fear lies within.